Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry for the late video. I just landed back in Texas, but I had to get this video out because of the massive earnings prints that we saw from Western Digital and SanDisk today. And if you're looking at those stocks in the after hours, or if you're looking at the memory players right now in the after hours, you are seeing red. But I want you to take a breath. I want you to stay with me for the next 15 minutes because we're going to walk through what we saw in the earnings print, what's happening in the after hours, and what do we think tomorrow, what will happen at tomorrow's opening bell. Because today's earnings doubleheader between Western Digital and SanDisk, they were the final structural confirmation that this sector needed. If we thought that Seagate's print earlier this week was an earthquake, these two reports today after the close, they were a tsunami of high margin growth. We saw Western Digital and SanDisk drop some of the most impressive numbers that we've seen from memory players all year long. Frankly, maybe some of the most impressive in the sector. Yet the stocks are pulling back in the after hour. Why? Because this is a classic or the ultimate sell the news trap that we're seeing right now. While the headlines are focusing on the 6% dip with Western right now, almost a 5% with SanDisk, we're going to spend the next 15 minutes or so looking at the truth behind these hard numbers, why we've got record margins, a massive dividend hike from companies, and a secret signal from Tim Cook at Apple that confirms what we've been talking about this week overall. Tonight, we're going to break down why the whales are trying to shake you out before Friday's open and why the structural bull case for the memory titans may have just gotten even stronger today. So if you haven't done it already, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe to the channel. Let's dive in and start to first and take a look at what Western Digital shared at the close of the market today. Guys, you can see, let me just scroll down through Western Digital. Some of the highlights overall: revenue, $3.34 billion in revenue for the quarter. The non-GAAP gross margins just under 51%. You can see the earnings per share, they had a 2.72. Free cash flow, almost $1 billion in free cash flow. You can see on the bullet points over here, shipped 4.1 million units of their latest generation EPMR, and they are increased their share repurchases of 752 million. And they've reduced debt and achieved net cash flow. But let me scroll down a little bit. You can see, first of all, look at the cloud. It's driving growth overall. As you can see, it's 89% of the revenue growth in the third quarter earnings. But let me pull you down to this one right here, because this is some of the most impressive things we've seen. We've got it, like I mentioned earlier, $3.34 billion. It's up 45% year over year. But the real story is right underneath it is almost a 51% gross margin. We just saw a legacy storage company transform into a 50% gross margin monster. This doesn't happen by accident. They are now operating at a software-like profitability. And what we also heard today from their CEO, that they confirmed that the data storage play, the power play is real. Western Digital has increased their quarterly dividend by 20%. Showing extreme confidence that these margins are sustainable, not a one-quarter fluke. You don't hike dividends like this unless you have massive visibility into 2027. They also confirmed that they are fully booked on high-capacity HDDs through the end of the year. This isn't a cycle like I've been saying on the channel. This is a structural shortage. It's a structural scarcity or super cycle, whatever you want to call it. It's exactly what Western Digital showed today. They confirmed what Seagate showed earlier in the week. The stock is down in the after hours right now by about 6%, but it's because it ran up. It was up by about 60% into this print. This is a mechanical profit taking, not a fundamental failure. The 20% dividend hike is the ultimate tell, and they are literally signaling to the market that this cash flow is durable. If you're worried about the after hours dip, you're missing the forest through the trees, in my opinion. This is the business that just raised its profit guidance by 20% for the next quarter. The whales are just clearing the decks. And let me show you also the guidance that we had. Look at the revenue for the next quarter. $3.65 billion. Gross margins, again, staying in that 51 to 52% range. And the earnings per share going to $3.25 plus or minus 15 cents either way. Really strong earnings across the board. But if you thought those were strong, let's jump over and take a look at the monster earnings that we saw, which was SanDisk. And you guys remember, I thought SanDisk had a chance of breaking $5.1 billion. I was blown away when I saw these numbers today. You can see If I scroll down here just to the highlights, if we focus on the non-GAAP over here to the right, they had revenues of almost $6 billion in the quarter, up 97%. You can see it right there. But if I take you down just below that, you can see I'm going to call out that line right there. So almost $6 billion, just under $6 billion for the quarter. Look where they were a year ago, up 251% year over year, almost a 100% increase quarter over quarter. This is massive. And look at the margins. 78% margin, 78.4% margin, enormous jump. Look at earnings per share. Their earnings per share of 23.4. I want to show you what they got in a second, but before we do that, I've got to call out just the data center below, because they are a data center titan now. If you look at the revenue right below where it's coming from, data center Q3, it's up 604 at the last right here. It's up 645% year over year. In the quarter was about 1.5 billion, up 233% quarter over quarter. But look what they did the prior year, 640, almost 650% growth year over year for this. This is massive. So I was blown away by SanDisk's earnings today. Almost $6 billion in revenue, 97% sequential increase. The data center explosion that we just talked about, 233% quarter over quarter, almost 650 year over year. This is the physical evidence of the hyperscale green light that we talked about earlier this week. SanDisk also just revealed that they signed 5 multi-year firm financial commitments with the biggest cloud players on earth. This is the holy grail for the memory sector. It's the holy grail for us as investors. They aren't selling chips on the spot market anymore. They're locking in high margin revenue through the end of the decade. This is a game changer. It means that SanDisk isn't selling on the spot market. They have locked in high margin, high revenue guaranteed for the next several years. Plus, they're expecting an earnings per share between $30 and $33 for the next quarter. Let me roll down that. You can see their business outlook. Look at the revenue right here. Revenue for the next quarter between we'll call it 7.8 billion and 8.3 billion. I'm rounding up a bit, just make it easy. Margins in the 80% range. And then down here, as I mentioned, earnings per share between 30 and 33%. Guys, this is massive earnings from SanDisk. It blew me away. Drop a comment below. Were you blown away by what we saw? Is this what you were expecting? Because it's significantly more than I was expecting. I knew it had a chance to get over 5.1 billion. I didn't think it had a chance to get to almost 6 billion. So in my opinion, the reason that this stock is pulling back, there was a little bit of commentary from the CEO around the consumer flash side. It was a little soft, but I don't care about those thumb drives with regards to SanDisk. We care about the $600 billion hyperscaler build out. That side of the business, as we just saw, the growth rates in that data center revenue, that side of the business for SanDisk is absolutely on fire. That's what's most important to me. But we're seeing a little bit of pullback. We also saw a massive run up right before these earnings with SanDisk, similar to what we saw with Western Digital. So there's no question we're seeing a little bit of profit taking overall between these two companies. And then there's the Apple signal. While all of us were probably reading the Western Digital and SanDisk prints tonight, Apple also reported, and they gave us a massive bullish signal for the memory sector. Tim Cook admitted that market pricing for memory is increasing significantly. Let me show you that article, because this is also in line with what we have seen earlier from the other hyperscalers. But you can clearly see here, Apple shares rise on strong iPhone sales, but higher memory prices loom. Another piece that dropped that earlier this week, it wasn't today, it was earlier in the week, that Apple's entry-level iPhone 18 is rumored to have 50% more RAM. So they're shifting from 8 gigabytes to 12 gigabytes in their new in their iPhone 18s to support Apple Intelligence overall. This is also a massive bullish signal for us in the memory sector, because we know that Apple is a ruthless negotiator in the world, probably one of the best negotiators. So if they're admitting they have to pay the memory tax, it means that Micron and SanDisk have 100% leverage and massive pricing power in the market right now. Plus the supply chain, that second article, when they confirmed that Apple is moving to 12 gigabytes of RAM for their Apple Intelligence, that for iPhone 18 will be the base model. That's a 50% increase in memory per device, as I mentioned. When the world's largest consumer electronics company increases its memory tax by 50%. It sucks up the global supply of LPDDR5X memory, causing a massive shortage for everyone else, which will also push the prices higher and give Micron significantly more leverage. Apple just underwrote the next leg of the Micron rally, in my opinion. The after hours tape tonight is a masterclass in volatility and institutional positioning. While the headlines may look scary to us as retail traders, a closer look at the data shows that the memory titans are actually finding strong support floors after an initial algorithmic flush. Let's look at the tape right now because we're seeing a classic after-hours shakeout. Western Digital, SanDisk, Micron, and even Seagate. We're going to take a look at all four because some of them dropped initially right at the closing bell, but they're finding support. Their initial reaction was a flush, but we're finding support like I just mentioned. Western Digital, let's start there because it initially dropped down to about 392. But what we're seeing right now in the after hours is it's climbing back towards 404, getting more support. But we had a strong day. If you can take a look right above that, the day of trading, almost a $22 growth on the day, just over 5%. But we did pull back after the closing bell in the after hours, even after that strong print. As I said, we had a massive 60% run up in this stock before the print. So the price was probably built in and we saw some algorithmic selling overall, but we're finding support, as you can see, back up to the 404 level. That is a strong indication that the whales are stepping back in on this stock. You know, the algorithms sell the headlines, the humans buy the margins overall. And if we look at the other one, SanDisk, who also reported today, you can see closed just under $1,100. We saw them up to, you can see on the far right here, $1,115 today, up $32, 3%. In the after hours, down $50 right now, just about under 5%. But we're finding support again here. We saw this dip down, actually got down as low as just about $1,001 right after the closing bell, but it has climbed back up to about $1,045 now, finding support above that $1,000 level, which is a massive psychological win for the bulls. Micron also, if you look just to the right, had a bit of a quiet day today, down 0.25%, just off $1, hanging in that 517 level. It did pull back a bit in the after hours, but it's come back and is now in that 511. We know that, you know, Micron, that iron floor for them is anywhere between 505 and 518. So the fact that it's sitting right on that floor, despite the Western Digital chaos that we saw at the close, shows that investors aren't panicking at this as a sector as a whole. And let's scroll down and take a look at Seagate. Seagate had a strong day today too. You can see it right here, up $30, just under 5%. Pulled back by about $10 in the after hours, 1.5%, but still hanging strong at $6.62 a share right now. To me, those are strong levels for these stocks. They pulled back aggressively right at closing bell, but we found support and we got back up to the level that we want to see them be, above the psychological levels for many of the stocks. So today was the final validation for me. We saw Western Digital print a 50% margin. SanDisk growth in the business center over 200% was massive. But the real gift, as I mentioned, came from Apple. Tim Cook, when he told the world that prices are increasing significantly, but also they're going up by their memory by 50% in their new iPhone based on the Apple Intelligence play that they have. Don't let the after hours tape scare you right now. This is a liquidity event, not a fundamental shift. We just saw SanDisk print almost an 80% gross margin. A year ago, that would have been unthinkable. Western Digital, they hiked their dividend by 20% because they have so much free cash flow, they don't know what to do with it. So heading into tomorrow, we have a sector where every major buyer, whether that's Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, and now Apple, have confirmed they are fighting for supply. We are playing a structural shortage, not a 5-minute chart. If you're an investor, you ignore the after hours news right now. Look at the margin expansion in these companies. Expect volatility tomorrow. I expect a messy opening potentially. I think we're likely to see one more attempt to push SanDisk below the 1,000 level and push Micron below the 505 level. If those levels hold through the first hour of trading, though, the flush is over. I'll be watching the open cross closely tomorrow to see how these stocks open up and what the dynamic is at the beginning of the day. So stay disciplined. Don't let the flush
shake you out of your thesis and your belief in the fundamentals with these stocks. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Hope you have a great night.